Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Wishing you a brand new day filled with energy, peace, and great success. Dear friends, after the smokeless red brick kitchen was finished, it seemed like Toan and Diem's life on Sim Hill had entered its most peaceful and fulfilling chapter. The lush green vegetable beds, the flock of chickens laying eggs regularly, and a true home had soothed the bleeding wounds of the former CEO's past. However, it seems fate never wanted to give this brilliant man a break. On a clear, crisp morning, a cold summons from the police suddenly descended upon the wooden house, completely shattering the peaceful atmosphere. Why did the police call Toan in? What horrifying secret was revealed behind the doors of the interrogation room? The ruthless criminals who pushed Toan into the abyss have finally been caught, and the mastermind pulling the strings in the shadows is dragged into the light, Madam Huyen. From a 000 guy, Toan unexpectedly gets back all his assets and fateful keepsakes. How will the former CEO react to this spectacular turn of events? Hold your breath and follow every heart-pounding development in today's episode. The sudden police summons and the massive plot twist named Madam Huyen. Before we dive into the story, if you love the resilience of Toan and Diem, hit that subscribe button right now and leave a like to give them extra strength. Let the story begin. A shattered piece. Early morning on Sim Hill, the mist was still lingering around the palm tree canopies. Today was the first potato harvest. The couple woke up before the rooster crowed, working hard in the garden. Toan swung his hoe with powerful strikes, turning over patches of loose soil to reveal large, round, golden potatoes. Diem followed closely behind her hands, quickly gathering the potatoes into 2 large bamboo baskets. Their cheerful laughter echoed across the hillside. Suddenly, from outside the bamboo fence, the put-put sound of a motorbike rang out. A commune police officer in uniform parked his bike and called out, "Is Toan home?" Toan stopped hoeing, frowned, and stepped out. The police officer pulled a letter with a bright red stamp from his folder, his face serious. "You're Toan, right? Please sign here. This is a summons from the district police. You are required to be at the Criminal Investigation Department at exactly 9 a.m. today to assist in clarifying some important matters." After speaking, the officer quickly hopped on his bike and left, leaving Toan frozen in the middle of the yard, holding a thin piece of paper that felt as heavy as a ton. The former CEO's mind went completely blank. A summons. Did he do something illegal? Since drifting to this Sim Hill, all he's done is hoe dirt, plant veggies, and build a chicken coop. Could it be the violations from his time at the old corporation had been exposed? Or did his old enemies use money to frame him and bring disaster upon his head? Thousands of questions swarmed his mind, turning Toan's face pale. A wife's unwavering trust. Seeing her husband standing motionless, Diem quickly dropped her basket of potatoes and ran over. Looking at the bright red words, "Summons," she also jumped in fright. But seeing the panic in her husband's eyes, her primal instinct as a wife kicked in to protect him. She gently held Toan's calloused, mud-caked hands, flashing a kind, reassuring smile. "Toan, it's okay, honey. We live honestly. We don't steal or hurt anyone. The heavens have eyes. The police probably just need a citizen's help with something. Just go wash your hands and feet, put on your nice blue dress shirt, and head up to the district to see what's going on." Toan looked deep into his wife's clear, unwavering eyes and felt the heavy weight in his chest instantly lift. He nodded gently, patting the back of Diem's hand. "Yeah, you're right. A clear conscience has nothing to fear. You just stay home, sort the potatoes, and carry them to the market to sell. Let me handle the police matter. Wait for me to get back so we can eat dinner together." They parted ways at the red dirt crossroad. DM carried the heavy baskets of potatoes toward the country market, while Toan rode the beat-up motorbike straight toward the district police headquarters with a mindset ready to face any storm. The interrogation room. At exactly 9 o'clock a.m., Toan stepped through the imposing doors of the Criminal Investigation Department. He was led into a small room. Sitting opposite him was a police major with an incredibly sharp gaze. The tension in the air was so thick, you could clearly hear the clock ticking on the wall. The major opened his case file, looked at Toan, and spoke slowly. "Mr. Toan, congratulations. The 2 suspects who pushed you off the cliff that day, we've caught them." Bam! The words hit Toan like a lightning bolt. He shot straight up from his chair, slamming both hands on the table, his breathing heavy. The memories of that horrifying dark night, the moment his car was forced to the edge of the cliff, the brutal beatings, and the feeling of free-falling into the freezing water suddenly rushed back, tearing his soul apart. You caught them!" Toan's voice trembled, suppressing his extreme rage. The major nodded, gesturing for Toan to sit back down. "That's right. These are 2 extremely dangerous wanted criminals with a long string of prior convictions. Through our interrogation, they have confessed to your attempted murder." The major pushed a confession statement toward Toan. "According to their testimony, they had no personal grudge against you. They were just desperate hitmen. The person behind the scenes who arranged it, Arnie, who provided your schedule and paid them to take you out, was a woman named Huyen." Huyen, that name coming from the officer's mouth, made the former CEO's heart skip a beat. His hands gripped the armrests so tightly that his veins bulged. How could he ever forget that name? Huyen, the woman with the face of an angel, but the heart of a venomous snake. The one who used to break bread with him, who called him the sweetest names, just to drain his trust and hijack his shares. Turns out behind that benevolent businesswoman facade, she was the mastermind who signed his death warrant just to steal the entire corporation. The major continued. "These 2 confessed that after pushing you off the cliff, Madame Huyen gave them a bank card as payment, but she accidentally or intentionally forgot to give them the PIN, meaning they couldn't withdraw a dime. Furious and desperate for cash before they dumped your body, they searched you and took your cell phone and designer watch." Toan gritted his teeth and let out a bitter chuckle. Huyen's ruthless cruelty truly had no limits. She even scammed her own hitmen. "They sold your Rolex to an underground pawn shop for some quick cash. We are currently recovering it." The officer opened a drawer, pulled out a clear-sealed evidence bag, and placed it on the table. As for this phone, the security was too high. They couldn't unlock it and didn't dare sell it for fear of being tracked, so they still had it on them when they were busted. And here is the bank card in your name that they kept. With slightly trembling hands, Toan took the evidence bag. Inside was his familiar steel-framed smartphone, its glass screen sporting a few scratches. Right next to it was his black card, the ultimate symbol of his supreme power in his former elite world. Looking at these inanimate objects, Toan felt like an entire lifetime had just flashed before his eyes. Just months ago, holding this card, he could call the shots, surrounded by thousands of sycophants. Overnight, he lost everything. Lost his memory, nearly died in the woods, and had to split a roasted potato with a poor woman. And now that weapon of power was back resting right in the palm of his hand. Check if these are indeed your belongings, then sign the handover report. Toan took a deep breath, suppressing the emotions surging inside him. He picked up the pen and signed his bold, sweeping signature on the paper. Stepping out of the police station gates, the sun was high in the sky. The glaring sunlight beat down on the man's resolute face. Toan gripped the black card tightly in his pocket. The hitmen were caught, but that venomous snake named Huyen was still out there, roaming free and enjoying his blood-soaked money. Rage boiled in his veins, urging him to catch a ride straight back to the city, grab that woman by the throat, and demand justice. But right at that moment, Diem's image popped into his mind. Her sun-tanned face, her gentle smile, and her small silhouette carrying 2 heavy baskets of potatoes through the morning mist. The hatred suddenly softened, making way for a boundless, overwhelming love. No, Toan told himself. Madam Huyen, sooner or later I'm going to make you pay this debt with interest. But today I have something much more important to do. I want to bring happiness to my woman. Toan strode over to an ATM next to the district post office. He slid the black card into the slot. He punched in the PIN. The screen displayed his balance. A seemingly endless string of zeros sat quietly right there. His fortune was still completely intact. Toan smiled and withdrew a thick stack of cash. Today, the former CEO decided to go big. Back at the district market, Diem had just sold her last batch of potatoes. The prices were good today, so she brought in a decent amount of money. Smoothing out the small bills and tucking them into the pocket of her traditional shirt, Diem wiped the sweat from her forehead, her heart leaping with joy. But she didn't dare spend a single penny on herself. Remembering Toan's worried face this morning when the police called her stomach tied in knots, Diem hurriedly packed up her carrying pole and baskets, walking briskly down the scorching asphalt road, just hoping to get home quickly to see if her husband had returned safely. Meanwhile, at a larger market in the center of the district, Toan was going on a shopping spree. With cash in hand, the former CEO didn't hesitate to spend. He stopped at the biggest seafood stall, pointing to buy a massive splashing grouper. Next, he swung by the butcher and picked out the freshest, finest cuts of beef. He didn't forget to swing by a specialty shop to buy a premium bottle of red wine, a basket of imported fruits, and most importantly, he bought a brand new, incredibly elegant cream white dress. He carefully strapped that mountain of delicious food to the back of his beat-up motorbike, his heart floating with happiness. He could already picture Diem's wide-eyed, stunned face when she saw dinner tonight. The motorbike rumbled loudly, speeding down the paved road towards Sim Hill. Halfway there, under the harsh glare of the summer noon sun, Toan's sharp eyes spotted a familiar petite figure walking ahead. The bamboo carrying pole swayed rhythmically on her frail shoulders. The conical hat hid half of her face, but he could never mistake that walk for the rest of his life. It was Diem. She was trekking over 7 kilometers from the market to their house, just to save a few bucks on a motorbike taxi. Toan's nose stung. This silly woman, she had the potato money in her pocket, yet she still put herself through this. Toan rolled the throttle, the motorbike slowly moving forward, pulling up right next to Diem on the side of the road. He honked the horn, beep, beep. Diem jumped and turned around. Beneath the brim of her conical hat, her sweat-drenched face suddenly lit up as if by magic when she saw the familiar man sitting on the bike. "Toan, you're back! What did the police say? Are you okay?" Diem dropped her carrying pole with a thud and rushed over, patting his arms and shoulders, as if terrified someone had beaten him. Toan put the kickstand down, his smile as radiant as the sun. He reached out, using the hem of his dress shirt to gently wipe the sweat beading on his wife's forehead. "I'm fine. The police just called me in to verify some old information. Everything is smoothed out, honey." Diem breathed a huge sigh of relief, repeatedly rubbing her chest. "Oh my God, you had me worried sick since this morning. As long as you're okay, that's all that matters. Let me carry these things home and then we'll cook dinner." It was only then that DM noticed the giant mountain of food and the bag of new clothes tied to the back of Toan's bike. Her eyes widened, her mouth stammering. Where did you get all this amazing food? That fish is huge, and wine too. Did you rob a bank or something?" Toan burst into loud laughter at his wife's wild imagination. He hopped off the bike effortlessly, lifted DM's carrying pole, and baskets, tied them neatly to the side of the bike, and patted the back seat. "I didn't rob a bank, the bank gave my money back. I got lucky today and collected an old debt. Hop on, wifey, the noon sun is blistering. Let your husband drive you home. Tonight I will personally get in the kitchen. We are going to have a massive celebration." DM was bewildered, not quite understanding what old debt he meant, but seeing Toan's confident smile and his eyes shining with happiness, she obediently climbed onto the bike, wrapping her arms tightly around his waist. The motorbike, carrying a mountain of delicious food and a pure, simple love, fired up and tore down the tree-lined village road. Toan's broad back shielded his petite wife from every gust of hot wind. They were heading back to Sim Hill, heading toward the most lavish dinner they'd ever had. But Toan knew tonight's dinner wasn't just to celebrate getting his black card back. It was a milestone marking the return of a king. Madame Huyen, in that glamorous city, was probably still eating well and sleeping soundly. But she had no idea that the fierce beast she pushed into the abyss had officially awakened, and it now possessed all the fangs and claws needed to collect this blood debt. The doors of the police station didn't bring disaster. They brought Toan the key to turn the tables. The enemy was exposed and his card of power had returned to his hands. Instead of immediately getting sucked into a vortex of revenge, the former CEO chose to use his first dollars to buy his devoted wife the best meal possible. Toan's maturity and inner peace right now were exactly what made him the most terrifying weapon against those who had harmed him. Flashback to the scorching noon sun when Toan's motorbike pulled up next to DM on the red dirt road. Seeing his wife dripping with sweat after a grueling morning of hauling and selling potatoes, Toan's heart ached, even though the giant grouper and fresh cuts of beef were already strapped to the back of the bike. Toan still felt it wasn't enough. He kicked the stand down, grabbed DM's hand, his eyes sparkling with a smile. "DM, we're already at the intersection leading to the big district market. Come on, follow me. We're going in to buy a few more things. Tonight's dinner cannot be missing. Wild shiitake mushrooms and some special spices." DM was bewildered, trying to pull her hand back. "Oh my god, Toan! You bought that huge fish and wine too. How are we going to eat all of that? Why buy more? Don't be wasteful. Honey, we have to save money in case we get sick." But Toan didn't let her refuse. He walked the bike, pulling his wife straight into the busiest market in the district. Today, Toan wasn't a farmer counting every spare penny. The poised aura of a man who once managed thousands of employees effortlessly radiated from him, making the surrounding vendors instinctively defer to him. He led DM into the largest clothing shop in the market. Ignoring his wife's hesitation, Toan personally picked out a cream-white one-piece dress made of soft, incredibly elegant fabric. He pressed it into DM's hands. "Go try it on. When we get back, I want you to wear this dress for our dinner." After that, they walked through the produce section together. Instead of haggling over every dime like usual, Toan generously bought bags of the freshest mushrooms, bunches of vibrant green asparagus, and didn't forget to buy a bouquet of brilliant red velvet roses. DM walked beside her husband, her hands full of shopping bags, constantly muttering about the cost. but the corners of her lips were curled in a foolishly happy smile. She had no idea where this money came from. Toan just made up an excuse about collecting an old debt from an acquaintance in town. To DM, as long as Toan came back safely from the police station, nothing else mattered. They returned to Sim Hill as the evening shadows began to fall. The small wooden house nestled under the forest canopy welcomed them with a cool, refreshing breeze. Today, Toan absolutely refused to let DM lift a finger in the kitchen. He pushed her toward the bathroom, urging her to wash up and change into her new dress. Meanwhile, the former CEO rolled up his sleeves, put on his wife's old apron, and officially stepped into the smokeless red brick kitchen he had just built with his own hands. The new kitchen worked perfectly. The late afternoon sunlight streamed through the small window, casting a warm glow on the red bricks. Toan carefully marinated the beef tenderloin with a pinch of salt pepper and the fragrant herbs he had just bought. The sizzling sound of fat popped cheerfully on the cast iron pan. The mouth-watering aroma of garlic butter, seared steak, filled the air without a single wisp of black smoke to sting his eyes. Next to it, the grouper and mushroom soup was bubbling away, releasing the sweet scent of the ocean, mixed with the earthy aroma of the forest. When the dinner tray was set on the wooden table in the middle of the house, DM timidly stepped out of the bedroom. She wore the cream-white dress, her long black hair neatly combed and falling softly to her shoulders. Even though she wore no makeup and her skin was slightly tanned from the sun and wind in Toan's eyes. At that moment, DM was more beautiful than any movie star he had ever met in the upper crust. Her bashfulness, her gentleness, and her clear eyes made the hardened man's heart skip a beat. Toan pulled out a chair for his wife. Today's dinner wasn't boiled potatoes or wild greens with fermented crab paste. Instead, it was a true feast with steak grouper and a bottle of red wine poured into 2 glass goblets. In the center of the table sat a vase of deep red velvet roses. DM sat with her head bowed, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her new dress, her voice thick with emotion. Toan, in my entire life, I've never eaten a meal this delicious, nor have I ever worn a dress this beautiful. I feel like I'm dreaming. Toan smiled and sat down opposite his wife. He raised his wine glass lightly, clinking it against DM's, producing a crisp clink. This isn't a dream, DM. This is just the beginning. Thank you, because in my darkest and most desperate moment, you held my hand. Tonight's dinner is specially prepared by me to repay your tears and sacrifices. They enjoyed the meal together. The sweet tenderness of the beef and the slight astringency of the wine blended to create a floating, intoxicating feeling. The wooden house on Sim Hill today was filled with laughter, romance, and a happiness that felt absolutely perfect. However, Toan knew this moment of peace was just the calm before a massive storm. When the meal was more than halfway done, he took a deep breath, his expression gradually turning deadly serious. DM. Toan's voice was deep and somber, shattering the romantic atmosphere. Do you know why the police called me in this morning? DM stopped eating, her eyes revealing her anxiety. Didn't you say it was just to verify some old information? Toan shook his head slightly. He reached into his breast pocket and slowly pulled out a sleek jet black shiny metal-trimmed object. He placed it on the wooden table. Next, a billion dong vertu phone was placed neatly beside it. Clack! The sound of the plastic card and metal hitting the wooden table sounded chillingly cold. DM stared wide-eyed at these strange, expensive objects. Her woman's intuition told her that these things did not belong in their farming world. Honey, what is this? Why do you have it? DM stammered. Toan looked straight into his wife's eyes, enunciating every word. "This is my black card and my personal phone from before I lost my memory. This morning the police called me in to hand over my belongings because they caught the two men who pushed me off the cliff that day." Clatter! The fork in DM's hand dropped onto the porcelain plate. Her face went pale. Her entire body trembled with terror. Those cold-blooded killers had been caught, but Toan didn't stop there. His voice was as sharp and cold as an ice blade. "The most terrifying thing isn't those two hitmen. They were just lackeys desperate for cash. The mastermind pulling the strings, the one who bribed them, the one who provided my schedule for them to strike, was a woman." DM held her breath. Who was it?" "Madame Huyen." The name escaped Toan's lips, laced with utter rage. "She is the vice chairwoman of the board of directors, a woman who always acted benevolent, who called me by the sweetest names, who built the corporation with me. In everyone's eyes, she is like a living bodhisattva. But it turns out to seize all the shares and oust me, she hired people to take my life. This black card is exactly what she gave the hitmen as payment, but intentionally withheld the pin to set them up." Toan squeezed his eyes shut. The space in the kitchen suddenly felt suffocating, even without a single wisp of smoke. The lavish dinner suddenly tasted bitter. DM buried her face in her hands and sobbed. She felt so much pain for her brilliant husband, who had dedicated his whole life to his work, only to be stabbed in the back by the person he trusted most. The society out there was too terrifying. The human heart was more vicious than wild beasts. DM suddenly lunged across the table, grabbing Toan's tightly clenched fists. Her tears flowed freely. "Toan, I'm begging you, let them be money. That corporation, we don't need it anymore. That Madame Huyen is so evil, if she finds out you're alive, she won't spare you. Give this card back to the police and let's run away somewhere else, or just stay right here on Sim Hill, planting veggies and raising chickens. I'm so scared." DM's panic was completely understandable. How could a woman who spent her life tied to potato fields and chicken coops withstand the ruthless schemes of the upper class? Toan walked around the table and pulled his wife tightly into his arms. He stroked her hair, his gaze fixed on the bright moonlit night sky outside the window. Unlike the usual agitation of a man consumed by vengeance right now, Toan exuded a terrifying stillness. The stillness of an emperor right before marching to war. "DM, listen to me." Toan lifted his wife's chin, wiping away her tears. "Before I could give up a 60 million dong salary because I didn't want to get tangled up in the past. But today, knowing the mastermind is Madame Huyen, I can no longer run away." DM's eyes widened, shaking her head in fear. "Don't be afraid." Toan gripped her shoulders tightly. "Running away only lets the enemy win. She threw me off a cliff she is sitting comfortably on. The chairman's seat, spending the money I bled and sweated for. If I stay silent, the law might lack the evidence to convict her because those two hitmen are just fall guys. I have to go back, but I won't go alone, and I'm not stupid enough to charge straight into her lair right away. I have this card in my hand. I have capital, and I have the brain of a CEO. Starting tomorrow, I will use this very land of Sim Hill as a springboard to build a new empire. When I am strong enough, I will personally force Madame Huyen to her knees to pay back every single tear you've shed." Toan's ironclad declaration rang out through the night, so powerful and commanding that DM was utterly mesmerized. Looking into her husband's eyes, she no longer saw the resignation of a peasant farmer. She saw the blazing fire of a king ready to reclaim his throne. He wasn't rushing back to the city to fight immediately. he chose to stand back up right where he had fallen. The dinner concluded under the bright, clear moonlight. The black card sat silently on the wooden table, like a life or death contract, marking the beginning of an unforgiving war. Madame Huyen, back in that glamorous city, was probably raising a glass of champagne to celebrate her new empire. But that wicked woman could never imagine that the ghost she feared most had awakened, and he was quietly sharpening his deadliest claws right from a poor country village. Dear friends, a romantic dinner and a pristine white dress cannot cover up the cruelty of the truth. The name Madame Huyen has been called out, unmasking a hidden devil. However, instead of seeking blind revenge, Toan made an incredibly wise and calm decision. Stay rooted on Sim Hill, use his card of power to launch a startup and build an unshakable foundation before confronting the enemy's giant syndicate. How will the brilliance of a master CEO be displayed when he decides to turn Sim Hill into a gold mine? What will be the first billion-dollar project on this barren land? And how will Madame Huyen react when news of a mysterious rival in the Highlands finally reaches her ears? Classic corporate mind games combined with extraordinary resilience await in tomorrow's episode, The $1 Million Card Swipe on Sim Hill and the first punishment for Madame Huyen. Do you believe in Toan's strategy? Leave a comment to support him, and remember to hit subscribe so you don't miss the next breathtaking episode. Wishing you all a good night's sleep.